Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at two thrash metal albums from the year 1989, and it's going to be Agent Orange by SODOM and The Years of Decay by Overkill, and we're going to start right now. So starting off with Agent Orange, what more can be said about this album? Agent Orange is like a metal movie, short, extremely cohesive in both musical and lyrical aspects. It repeats the phenomenon of Raining Blood by Slayer. Fast tempos, catchy riffs of 4-minute songs and discourse and unity of lyrics are reminiscent to visualizing a coherent movie in your head while listening to this album. This is where SODOM found a level musically, and Agent Orange was the first album where it was lyrically 100% anti-war. Agent Orange, however, is not as fast, bold and straightforward as the previous two albums, and it features several instances of broken rhythms, ideally interwoven in its strong structures. SODOM seemed to have peaked with this album. There was some age magic involved here. You know, it's just like recording was done during those years when they were still young to burn but already too experienced to figure out how to put the best of themselves out there. In this particular case, it's reminiscent of Rust in Peace by Megadeth to some degree. Symbolically, this album is dedicated to the war victims all around the world, titled after a chemical weapon used in the Vietnam War against the backed USSR natives, and was just released just several months prior to the fall of the Berlin Wall, the end of the communist era in the DDR and the unification of Germany. Agent Orange symbolically hit again in another Cold War, the Cold One, but back then it hit with the power of words and played its role to some extent in putting an end to the conflict and not stirring things up. Now, switching gears to The Years of Decay by Overkill, tracing their roots back to the new wave of British heavy metal and the underground punk scene, thrash combines the right amount of aggression and technical flair to both frighten and the self-righteous into hiding and inspire a punk rocker to learn his instrument and grow his hair down to his ass. Naturally, one is then to ask what the standard is for measuring the success of an effort at compiling an LP in this very unique and poorly imitated art form. Although some might cite release by bands like Creator, Megadeth or even Metallica as the pinnacle of the genre, they probably never heard of Overkill's fourth invocation of high-speed, bone-crushing, virtuoso worshipping demon that is thrash metal. This album, Years of Decay, accomplishes what many believe that Metallica's Master of Puppets album did: introduce a long-winded epic style with a more progressive sound without sacrificing the raw energy that an album of thrash metal demands. Several of the songs make use of the brief introductions as did Metallica's heralded third album, but here we see a constant use of darkness and gloom that doesn't mix with the faster sections that follow after. Evil Never Dies has an intro that may well be compared with Metallica's Damage Incorporated, except it sounds like an ominous version of medieval organum rather than a comical pre-classical overture that doesn't fit with what's to come. The title track might be compared to Sanitarium, another Metallica song, except it's created different and shows a dynamic vocal performance. The first half of this album is where most thrashers lie, all of them clocking in at under 5 minutes except for the Third Time to Kill, which has a prolonged riff intro that takes a minute or so before stomping the listener's neck into the ground with a high-speed riff frenzy. The song I Hate is shortest and most aggressive of the lot, not to mention Whoever Made It So, and also being lyrically punk inspired. This song is quite therapeutic and a good alternative to facing assault charges. The song Elimination is the most listener friendly and the most hook laden. The lyrics are easy to follow and the music video was a good alternative to anybody that wasn't into the glam stuff at the time on MTV. The song Nothing to Die For is another anthem of angst superimposed against a series of great thrash riffs, some of which are reminiscent of Metallica's Blackened song, not to mention one where you can actually hear the bass. The second half of this album is a mix more of insanely thrash and good fun and some experimental songs that rival longer works by other metal outfits. Playing with Spider / Skullcrusher is the muddiest and slowest song that you'll probably ever hear from this band, sometimes reminding us of Black Sabbath, although Blitz's vocals are literally all over the place, never missing a note. It transitions into somewhat faster tempo after the first few minutes, but it mostly reeks of doom influences. The Years of Decay is the closest thing to a ballad on the album, start off with a long acoustic section with Blitz actually singing cleanly. But getting plenty aggressive after the first few minutes. Who Tends to Fire is also a quiet long song, starts off quiet, but it is far too menacing throughout the profane with the title ballad. Both for Tension and Evil Never Dies are more classic Overkill style thrash, rapidly shifting beats, riffs, and literally bashing the hell out of the listener until his ears bleed. In many ways, The Years of Decay is the end of a grand chapter in the history of metal. It came out in a year when thrash was still very much alive. The closing track, Evil Never Dies, is centered with 3 periods to spell out end, obviously to signify that the 4-part Overkill saga started on the 9th track of the debut was over. Although not credited as part 4 in the title, the signature riff found in the other 3 parts can be heard briefly towards the end. Ironically, this would also come to signify the end of an era for the band, with Bobby Gustafson as the sole axeman, but also signified in the title as a session that evil is forever. And as one can readily observe on Horoscope and the bulk of Overkill's further releases, the band is unmoved and unbroken by the ties of time and public opinion. So there you have it. What album do you think was better? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.